Pretty.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June Citizens Police Oversight Commission, our first meeting for the month. And I'm very excited to be hosting this meeting this evening. I'm Tanya McCleary. I'm the Executive Director for the Citizens Police Oversight Commission. And so we are getting ready to get started. So I'm going to call this meeting to order at this time. So this is a public meeting of the Citizens Police Oversight Commission that was properly advertised pursuant to the Pennsylvania Sunshine Act. And right now I'm going to do roll call. So as I call your names, Commissioner, if you could just indicate verbally for the recording that you are present, that would be wonderful. Let me get my glasses on, make it a little easier. All righty. Jolly Hatchett.
Present.
Hassan Bennett. John Solomon.
Present.
Melanie DeBose.
I am present.
Rosaria Thomas.
Present.
Hakeem P.A.
Present.
Great. And I'm going to go back to Hassan Bennett.
Present.
Wonderful, wonderful. So all of our commissioners are present this evening. And now we're going to look at the agenda and the minutes. So I'm going to ask for approval of the meeting minutes. So I want to just make sure that all the commissioners had a chance to review the minutes. And so I'm going to ask for a motion and a second for approval of the meeting agenda.
Commissioner Bennett, I approve the meeting agenda.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Great. So there has been a motion for approval of the meeting agenda and has been properly seconded. All of the commissioners in favor of approving the meeting agenda say aye.
Aye.
Anybody
I'm
opposed?
sorry, I didn't get to see it. I didn't see it. I didn't
Okay.
receive it. Yeah.
Okay. So
Okay,
anybody
thank
opposed to approving the meeting agenda?
I oppose it because I didn't see the minutes. I'm sorry.
I think the
So
proper
this is
thing would be to
this is the
abstain.
meeting. I'm sorry, a meeting agenda, Commissioner Thomas, not the minutes, the agenda for
Okay.
this meeting.
I didn't get to see it. I apologize, Executive Director
Okay.
McCleary. Thank you.
So did you want to, Commissioner Thomas, do you want to object or do you want to abstain from the vote?
May I sustain from the vote until I can, at least
Okay.
if someone can put it in the chat room, I'll try to get a quick view of it.
Okay. Well, with all the other members that are voting, it does pass.
Okay,
so-
I'm looking, okay, let me look at it now.
Okay.
Okay, I can definitely follow them when they,
Okay.
when you did the presentation, so, okay, I agree.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you very much. So
No problem.
let the record reflect that all the commissioners have approved the meeting agenda. The next thing on the agenda is approval of the prior meeting minutes. So this is the meeting from May of 2024. And so at this time, I would ask for somebody to make a motion to approve the May 2024 meeting. And then if I can get somebody to second that.
A motion to approve the previous meeting minutes.
Okay. And just for the record, commissioners, if you can just say your name, and that way the record will be clear. So,
Commissioner
PA,
Thomas here, I second approve.
Okay, so Commissioner PA made the motion. It was seconded by Commissioner Thomas. Is there any discussion on the approval of the meeting minutes from May of 2024?
I'm
All
gonna,
right,
hold as I didn't receive the meetings minutes.
okay. Any other discussion of the meeting minutes?
I would
So
like a
this-
copy, oh, I apologize, Executive Director McClary. I would like a copy of the minutes of April 2nd, please.
Okay, so for right now, we have a vote on the floor to approve so we can hold that.
Okay,
Right
thank
now,
you.
we're trying to just approve the May 2024. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussions about specifically the May 2024 meeting
Okay.
minutes?
Thank you, thank you.
Seeing no or hearing no discussions, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor of approving the May 2024 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Commissioner Solomon here. Aye.
Anybody opposed or any abstentions?
Victor Valley had it all abstained.
Okay,
This is Hassan Bennett. I will abstain.
okay. So with 4 the commissioners voting to approve, we have enough to pass the motion. So the motion has been passed for approval of the May 2024 minutes. The next thing on the agenda is the election of the interim chair. And for the public record, I will just give an explanation of why this needs to happen. As I think some people may know in the public, some people not, that when the commission was first seated, in order to not have everybody leave at one time, the terms were staggered. And so some of the inaugural commissioners had 4-year terms and some had 2-year terms. And the current chair, Commissioner Hatchett, actually was one of the people that had a 2-year term. And so he will be going off of the commission. And therefore, we need to elect an interim chair at this time as his term is concluding. And so at this time, I'm going to ask for, so I just want that to be clear for the record why this needs to happen, is that the commission is currently without an interim, without a chair. And we are very appreciative to Commissioner Hatchett, who's agreed to stay on to help throughout the transition, but has stepped back from that leadership role. And so we need to elect an interim chair at this time. And so are there any nominations? Are there any nominations for the role of interim chair for the Citizens Police Oversight Commission?
This is Commissioner DeBose, and I would like to nominate Commissioner Hassan Bennett as interim chair for CPOC.
All right. We have heard a nomination for Commissioner Bennett to be the interim chair. And Commissioner Bennett, a question for you. Do you accept the nomination?
This is Commissioner Bennett. I do accept the nomination.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other nominations for the role of interim chair?
I did nominate Hakeem PA, but I realized that most of my commissioners wanted Commissioner Bennett, so I respect that.
So right now, there's only one name on the floor to be the interim chair. Are there any other nominations, self-nominations, or any other commissioner wants to nominate a fellow commissioner? All right, well, hearing none, There has been one name offered forward to be the interim chair of the Citizens Police Oversight Commission. That is Commissioner Hassan Bennett. And so just to make it official, I know that Commissioner DeBose nominated him, but can we get a formal motion? So Commissioner DeBose, maybe you can make that a formal motion and we get a second.
Now go.
This is Commissioner DeBose. I move that we accept the nomination of Commissioner Hassan Bennett as our interim CPOC chair.
Thank you. And can I get someone to second that motion?
I'll second that.
Great. And that was for the record, Commissioner Thomas. All right. So there has been a motion that has been properly put on the floor and seconded to elect Commissioner Hassan Bennett as the interim chair for the Citizens Police Oversight Commission. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing no discussion, I will call for the vote at this time. I will do a record vote just so it's very clear for the minutes of this meeting. So when I call your name, if you can just say yay or nay. This is for the election of Commissioner Hassan Bennett as the interim chair. Commissioner Hatchett.
I have a question. Is there a reason why we didn't just incorporate what we facilitated during the executive session and just ratify it for the purpose of this meeting?
I'm not really familiar with how you do that. So if Council Twig would like to jump in and help me here, I thought we had to do it all again for the record. If there's a particular way we can do it in a different way, please advise.
Sure. According to the Sunshine Act, votes like this have to be taken during a public meeting. So that's what we're doing at this point. We had, we will announce later on the agenda, we had an executive session to discuss this, to find out who wanted to run for interim commission chair. But at this point, this public vote is what effectively elects the interim commission chair.
Any other discussion? So I will go for the record vote. Commissioner Hatchett.
I vote in favor.
All right. Commissioner Bennett.
I will vote in favor.
All right. Commissioner Solomon.
I'll vote in favor.
All right. Commissioner DeBose.
Aye.
Commissioner Thomas.
I vote in favor.
Commissioner PA.
Vote in favor.
All right. Let the record reflect that there was a unanimous vote for the election of the new interim chair. And so the new interim chair will be Commissioner Hassan Bennett. And so Commissioner Bennett, congratulations. And we look forward to working closely with you during this transition period. And congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners.
All right. So now we're going to move on to commission business. And the first thing is notification of executive session pursuant to the Sunshine Act. And so I'm actually going to turn this part over to Council Twig, as she kind of indicated in her response to the question from Commissioner Hatchett. And Council Twig, if you can just facilitate that section for us, please.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. On May 30th, 2024, the commissioners met in executive session related to privileged and confidential business, specifically personnel and employment matters related to the interim chair position. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. And now we will turn to agency business. And so we will start with the executive director's report. And so I'm going to ask if those slides can be put forward at this time.
All right, can everyone see the slides?
Yes.
Perfect.
Great.
All right.
So we're doing things a little different when we started this last month in terms of normally you just hear, I think, from the executive director. But at this time, I really think it's important for the community as well as the commissioners to hear from the men and women that are leading the different departments. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about stuff that I need to say, and then I'm going to be turning it over to each director or the designee for their department to talk about the great work that they're doing. And so I'm going to allow questions in between from the commissioners, just because I don't want you guys to have to wait through all of this to get to any questions that you have. So we will take questions after each report that from each director or their department that comes forward. So once again, commissioners, you don't have to wait till the very, very end. And so I just want to remind people that the mission of the Citizens Police Oversight Commission is to oversee and investigate the conduct, policies, and practices of the Philadelphia Police Department. So you might hear us say PPD for short. And I always like to say what acronyms are because not everybody knows what all the acronyms are, right? So when you hear PPD or you hear CPOC, that stands for the Citizen Police Oversight Commission. And so CPOC currently receives complaints of police misconduct, audits and monitors internal affairs investigations and police disciplinary processes, sits and votes on PBI panels at police discipline hearings, conducts oversight of police shootings, analyzes police data, develops policy recommendations and reports, and engages in outreach and training. And so the first area that you will hear from is complaint data. And so I'm going to ask if our administrative director, Daniel Guy, can unmute and please give us the information around the complaint data that we have this month.
Yes, good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Danny Guy. You can see this is the first sort of stats of our data for complaints. In the month of May, we referred 11 complaints to internal affairs. That brings our total to date from the beginning of January 2024 up until the end of May to 76 complaints that have been referred to internal affairs thus far this year. You can see a breakdown of both the race of the complainants as well as gender on this slide. Our next slide shows the allegations of the different complaints, and it should be noted that one complaint can have several allegations. So this is just a breakdown of every single allegation for the complaints that have been referred to internal affairs thus far in calendar year 2024. You'll see that departmental violations is sort of our highest percentage at 28.18, followed by lack of service and then unprofessional conduct. This is a general map of the zip codes of areas where complaints were reported to happen. The complaints with the darkest red color is sort of where the higher amounts, 12 to 14, and the areas they're white are the areas where we haven't received any complaints. And I will note also that this is exclusively to complaints that are submitted to the Citizens Police Oversight Commission. That's not to say that complaints have not happened elsewhere in the city and were reported directly to internal affairs or to the district which they happened in. And I will turn it over to Janine Zajac.
So before we go to auditing and monitoring, and I will kind of advance each department, if we can go back to complaints, one of the things that you will start to see starting next month is actually a summary of complaints. So you will actually get a sense of what the complainant is alleging, et cetera, because I think it's important for the commissioners as well as the public to just get a sense of kind of things that community members are alleging against the police department so that you have a flavor of that. And so that will start next month. And I will be looking forward to hearing any critiques about that from the commissioners, any questions that they have. I think it would be really helpful in terms of transparency to see the kind of things that community members and others are alleging happen between them and members of the Philadelphia Police Department. All right, and with that, I'll turn it over to Janine Zajac to talk to us about auditing and monitoring.
Everyone, good evening. I'm the director of the Auditing and Monitoring Unit. This first slide just discusses some of the things that we're working on currently. So we conduct regular audits of complaints against police, or CAPs as we refer to them. These CAP audits are reviews of police commissioner memos, or PC memos, as we call them, that are completed for closed internal affairs investigations. So we receive these PC memos after the investigation is totally finalized and totally closed out. We review these PC memos to assess the report for quality, thoroughness, and objectivity within the investigation. We are actually done with our first auditing report. I've been talking about that for a couple of months now. We're just finalizing how we're going to release the report and get it out there so everyone can read about all the great work we've been doing. The report covers the development of the unit and the process of CAP auditing, and also presents findings from the first sort of trial batch of CAP audits that we did. There's lots of data in there and lots of information about these investigations. The data that I have included in the slides that I'm about to go through are a little bit of a sample of the type of information that's going to be in the auditing report when we release it. But the data contained in these slides relate to audits that we have recently completed in our unit. So these are audits we have completed between April 1st and May 22nd of this year. So the most recent batch of audits that we've been able to conduct. We've been able to pull a lot of data out of our case management system. There's been some enhancements to the data reporting function. So that's been really helpful for us. So you can go to the next slide, please. So between April 1st and May 20th, we conducted 85 audits of closed internal affairs investigations into complaints against police. So 85 total cases that we reviewed. Internal Affairs has a standard timeline for their CAP investigations of 90 days. So that's something we track just to see how they're complying with that 90-day deadline. We found that 60% of the cases met that deadline and 40% didn't. And when they didn't meet that deadline, sometimes they weren't including a clear or sufficient explanation for why it was exceeding that 90-day timeline. So eventually we hope to use all of this information to make good recommendations to the police department for being more transparent in their reports of investigation. But
I think Janine, we lost, might got misconnected. Sorry, folks. Having to
We can give her a minute to get back in. That'll be awesome. Commissioners, we'll just give her one more minute to get back in. If she's having problems, we will.
It looks like Janine's power just went out in her house, so that might be why we lost her. Do we want to just move on?
So let's go. Yeah, let's go to the next section, and then we can. Hopefully, she'll be able to join us again. Hopefully. All right. So the next department that we were prepared to hear from tonight is the investigative unit. So I'm going to ask about Director of Investigations. I believe investigative unit representative will be joining us tonight to talk about the work of that unit.
Yeah, I'm here, Tanya.
Great.
My name is Jeff Hussein. I am the staff investigator for the unit, and just have a couple updates about the May 2024 police shootings. So there was one police shooting in the month of May. In total in 2024, there have been 7 police shootings, And this number includes all Philadelphia Police Department discharges at other persons. Accidental discharges, animal shootings, and officer suicides are not included in this number. And our unit has developed a website to keep the public updated with any police shootings after they occur. And you can go to phila.gov and see that. I'm going to drop it in the chat after I'm finished here. But the link is there on the slide, and we can go to the next slide. So here is a slide of the blocks that are listed from the 2024 shootings. In each case, CPOC will continue to monitor all these administrative investigations, and we may issue opinions or policy recommendations as needed in each case. Next slide. I'd like to update you on the most recent shooting that we've had at another person, and that occurred on May 12th, 2024 on the 2100 block of West Oxford Street in the 22nd District. It was about approximately 7:12 a.m. An off-duty officer was driving his personal vehicle and was stopped traveling westbound on Oxford Avenue at the intersection of Ridge Avenue and Oxford Avenue there. And he was stuck behind a stationary vehicle. After the vehicle did not move for several cycles of the light, so it went, green, yellow, red a few times. The off-duty officer honked his horn, and that prompted an interaction with a Black female, who then talked to a Black male that was named Duke. And in the following exchange, Duke approached and struck the officer. And during the ensuing altercation, another male joined the altercation, both armed with weapons, which led to a struggle over the firearms. Amidst the assault that ensued, by multiple individuals, and having taken his firearm, the officer's firearm was taken from him. The officer's firearm was discharged during the struggle. Subsequently, the officer was transported to Temple University Hospital and had some injuries of concussion, black eye, and other injuries. And no suspects were reported injured by the gunfire. And there was a patrol alert that helped to identify and arrest a man by the name of Yusuf Coleman, who admitted to being involved in the assault but denied taking the officer's firearm from him. And the investigation by OISI, also known as Officer Involved Shooting Investigations Unit at PPD, continues their investigation, and CPOC will keep the community updated with the incident when appropriate.
Thank you. And I'm actually, I did not stop after each unit to have the commissioners either give comment or ask questions. So anything for the investigative unit, unfortunately, because this is an ongoing investigation, we will not be able to say more than what we have put on this slide. But let me see if any of the commissioners had any questions for the investigative unit, and then I will go back and see if any of you had questions about the complaint unit.
I do, may I?
Okay.
Okay. And I want to make sure I get the words out correctly. Has our investigation department, not internal affairs, because I'm very much familiar with internal affairs, have our investigation department completed any reports in regards to civilians who have filed complaints other than shootings?
We are in the process now of well, somebody, I think I heard a voice.
I think Hussein was going to say something.
Please go ahead, Tanya, and I'll fill in where I can.
No, go ahead if you want to jump in. I was going to say, well, let me jump in to say that right now our office is in
muted or something. I can't hear you, Tanya.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Let me, did you want to jump in and I can chime in?
I was hoping to piggyback off of what you were going at. I think you were on the right path there.
Great. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right. So right now, our office is in the department of developing all of our protocols. I think it's no surprise to the commissioners as well as members of the public that for a while we had a one-person investigative unit. We now have a staff investigator, as you have met him this evening. I think you also met him prior, just a couple months ago, as well as a chief investigator. So literally, we were in my office today working through all of our protocols. And so you will definitely start to see that, commissioners, as we go forward. I think one of the things that is very important for people to understand is that when we do these investigations, we have to do them responsibly. Investigations from any oversight agency are under tremendous scrutiny, not only from the police department, but from the public. And we are making sure that we are dotting all I's and crossing all T's to be able to bring the investigation of this unit to the commission with integrity, with expertise, with knowledge that the three of them bring. And so I don't know if Jeff, you want to add anything to that, but I look forward to hearing a lot from this unit going forward in the future.
Yeah, we're currently working on building out how we can report these things. But I can assure you that the investigations unit has been working tirelessly. We have been working.
Thank you so much for sharing that with me.
Absolutely.
And with the citizens that are in the chat room. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Thomas, for the question. It gives us a chance
You're
to kind of let people know what we are doing. So I appreciate the question.
Thank you.
Any other commissioners have questions for the investigative unit? So let me go back to the complaint area. That was Director Guy. Anybody have any questions about the slides that he had put forward regarding complaints that have come in the month of May? All right. Well, I think that our director of, I'm sorry, does somebody have a question? I thought I heard a voice. All right. So we're going to go back to our report from the from the auditing and monitoring unit. And because I think you all heard her power went out, her connection's kind of weak. So I'm going to ask her if she can leave her camera off, because that might help her kind of withstand, be able to stay with us. And so if you want to just pick up where you left off, and we really appreciate you jumping back in.
No problem. I'm sorry about that. So I don't know exactly when I got cut off, but the summary of this slide is just noting how often Internal Affairs is meeting their 90 business day deadline for the completion of their investigations. And then when they exceed that deadline, are they sufficiently explaining any gaps in the investigation that maybe caused it to go over the deadline? Some of the cases that we review once we receive them are quite old, because again, we don't receive them until they have gone all the way through the discipline process if the officer is being disciplined. So they're not always the most current cases, but some are, and it gives us a good sense of how their investigations are going. So you can go to the next slide, Danny. This is a list of the classifications that are applied to complaints against police by Internal Affairs. This is the way they classify the complaints to report on what types of complaints they are receiving. And of the 85 cases in this group, physical abuse was the most common classification of the complaints present. On the left-hand side, I have a table just showing the breakdown of what types of physical abuse were involved in these cases. So these are the official subclassifications given to the complaints. Forcibly pushed or slammed was the most common of those physical abuse complaints. And you can see the list going down from there. Danny, you can go to the next slide. So Internal Affairs policies surrounding their investigative practices mandates that investigators must make the following contact attempts to civilians that are involved in the complaint. So complainants, any civilian witnesses that may have been present. So those include an email, a documented telephone call, a written message delivered by a uniformed officer if the civilian resides in Philadelphia, has an address in the city. They deliver a message on an official complaint form through the police department called the 7548. And they also send letters by certified and first class US mail. So we track if the investigators are making all of those contact attempts as required by police department policy. So you can see in the batch of audits here, about 50% of the time they did make all of those contact attempts properly, and about 40% of the time they didn't. Sometimes that means they maybe didn't send both of those types of certified mail, or didn't send an email, but did most of those contact attempts. And then sometimes it means that there was a witness that we didn't see any documented attempts to contact. So if there was a FedEx driver down the street who may have seen what happened, or a neighbor who may have seen what happened. So we want to track how often these contact attempts are occurring, because witness testimony is really, really crucial to proving whether or not misconduct occurred. So this is an important thing for us to track. Next slide, Danny. Thank you. We also are tracking what types of encounters are most commonly the root cause of these complaints. From this table, you can see that most often in this batch of audits, it was when someone called 911 and then they had an interaction with responding officers that they then filed a complaint about. So that's something that is interesting to me to think about. Someone's calling 911 for help about something, and then ultimately they're interacting with an officer that they are deciding didn't go well and they want to file a complaint about. So there's these other types of interactions, a warrant or a pedestrian stop. And so we're just keeping track of this data so that we can report out to everyone about these types of encounters that are leading to complaints being filed. Next slide, thank you. This slide is documenting of these 85 cases that we reviewed, how many of them had sustained findings within them, meaning did the investigation prove that any misconduct occurred in the encounter that was complained about. So in just over 50% of cases, there were sustained findings. So they did find officers were had engaged in misconduct. An interesting statistic to note, however, is that sometimes those cases are only sustaining misconduct for an administrative violation. So something like an officer forgetting to turn on their body-worn camera, or making an error in a report that they've written about the incident, and maybe not the types of allegations related to their conduct with a citizen. So it's an important distinction to make, because we're seeing just what types of allegations are being sustained by these investigations. Are they allegations related to conduct with the public, or are they catching them on these technicalities and these minor errors, while some of those other types of allegations aren't getting sustained findings given to them? You can go to the next slide, Danny. There's lots of other types of data that we're tracking, and you'll see a lot more in the auditing report. Another example here is the we try to assess whether the findings within the PC memo, the findings of the investigation make sense. Are they logical and are they reasonable based on all the evidence and the analysis that was presented by the investigator in the report? So sometimes we see an investigator discussing how an officer's conduct occurred, and here's all the reasons why it was justified. And then they say that the allegation is unfounded, which means that the action just didn't occur, when they had just spent a few paragraphs explaining how it did occur and why it was justified. So these logical issues are really important for us to flag, because having accurate findings is so crucial for these investigations. That's how officers can be held accountable if they have repeat complaints filed against them, repeat types of misconduct against them. Making sure those findings are accurate is very, very crucial. So you can see about 70% of the cases we did find that the findings were logical and reasonable, and there was about 30% where we had some questions about that. And another big thing that we look at is, are these investigations actually addressing all of the allegations that complainants are making? And we found that 33 cases out of the 85 did not address all of the allegations, for a total of 43 missing allegations. So you can see these are the most common listed out here on the right-hand side in the table, and the number of the occurrences of them. we want to make sure that these investigations are as complete and as thorough as they possibly can be, and that all of the complaints that are, or all the allegations that are present are being properly addressed. So this is something we pay close attention to when we're reviewing these cases, because the integrity of the investigation is really at stake when some of these allegations aren't addressed. We can go to the next slide. So again, that was just a sample of the types of information that we collect about these investigations, and there will be more in the auditing report that is soon to be released. A couple other things that we have going on, working on developing a project to review some use of force investigations at Internal Affairs. So looking at how those investigations are done and assessing them in a similar way as we have with the complaints against police. We also monitor investigations and attend some interviews at Internal Affairs. So that's something that we do from time to time as well. And as far as monitoring goes, I just included some data points here. So far this year, our unit has monitored 14 complaints, and we've attended 38 interviews at Internal Affairs. So that includes officer interviews and complainant or witness interviews, and we can ask questions and make sure follow-ups are being asked in the interview, and try to make sure that all the allegations are being addressed and do our part to oversee parts of the investigation where we can. So I think that might be it for my slides, if I remember correctly. Yes.
Open it up to the commissioners for any questions for Director Zajac.
I have a question. Ms. Janine, pronounce your last name again?
Yeah, it's Zajac.
Zajac, thank you. Once it passes the timeline given by Internal Affairs, what's the protocol or the procedures after that?
So just for context, so that timeline is laid out in an old executive order that was passed, I want to say in 2017, that relates to complaints against police and how Internal Affairs is mandated to investigate them and some of their procedures and the discipline process in general. So the investigation, if it passes a 90-day deadline, it just proceeds. It just goes through the course of the investigation. I don't know what other measures they may take at Internal Affairs at that point, but I know that they are very intent on meeting that deadline. And that is a something that they are very concerned about when we've raised this to them. So yeah, if they miss the deadline, the investigation just proceeds. And sometimes there are good reasons for an investigation to go over 90 days. Officers are unavailable due to injury, or the investigator had trouble contacting the complainant for a while, and so it took a while to get the complainant in for an interview. Difficulty receiving documents. Investigations can kind of go long for a lot of different reasons, but yeah, I feel like I rambled a little bit. Did that answer your question?
Yes, I do have a follow-up question though. What is CPOC doing to inform the complainant of the delay in the investigation?
Yeah, so by the time that our unit is looking at these reports of investigation, the case has already been closed out and has sometimes gone all the way through the discipline process. So by the time we are receiving it, the complainant has also been notified that the complaint has been closed out. They also receive letters from Internal Affairs while the investigation is open when the case is being delayed for 90 days or more. So we don't know that a case is going over 90 days because we don't have access to this information until the case is already closed. So there really isn't, we don't have the ability to know when the case is going over 90 days while it's occurring.
I have a question. Ms. Zajac.
Yep.
We are still following the policies and the procedures from 2017.
So that was an executive order that was passed by Mayor Kenny. That was
Okay.
about the police department and their operations.
Okay. I think I'm gonna hold back for a minute. But thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sajak.
Any other questions from the commissioners? So I just want to also just put in context the work of this department, this unit. A lot of oversight agencies don't have auditing and monitoring. And one of the things that I think the public doesn't realize that a good oversight agency does is risk management, right? One of the things that hopefully cities value when they have an oversight agency is the ability for that agency to actually do risk management. And actually help the city understand liability and other issues. So the brilliant work that Director Zajac and her team is doing is going to help us look at trends, help us look at areas where improvements need to be made, et cetera. And so for some people, they may not fully understand the impact of this unit, but it is a crucial unit to reforming things in the police department, making recommendations for things to be changed, for things to continue to go well, for things to say they're not going well. And so I just want people to put that in context that we are grateful to be able to have this type of unit here in the city of Philadelphia, because I say that many oversight agencies have very tiny staffs without the ability to do this. And so the work that her and her team are doing are really going to help us when we start to look at some of the policies and things that you're going to be hearing from the policy unit that will be coming forth as recommendations from this commission as well as the agency. And so I just want to put that in context. I think nobody underestimates the work of her, but to just let the citizens of Philadelphia know, the community of Philadelphia know that we are excited to be able to do this kind of auditing and monitoring work here in the city.
May I,
so,
Executive Director McCleary?
Okay.
I think that policy in regards to Mayor Kenny should be updated with our new mayor, the Honorable Sherelle Parker. And because I am not the one that communicates with City Hall, well, yeah, I do communicate with City Hall, but I think as our executive director, she should be communicated that maybe that policy should be updated. And not the PAC, not following the procedures when it was PAC, but following the procedures now with CPOC.
And I do think that makes sense, Commissioner Thomas. And so we look forward to working with you all to see if there are things that should be updated that we can recommend be changed. Because of course, the best thing about 21st century policing, right, is that policies need to be vibrant and relevant, et cetera. Yes. So sometimes if it's not broke, you don't need to fix it, but sometimes you do need to fix it. So I think that being able to look at that in conjunction with our policy to see if there are some things that are potentially not in line with 21st century policing is something that we could potentially be looking into. And so we look forward to working with you and the other commissioners to see if there's anything that we would like to say about it. And so
thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you.
And so I'm going to now turn it over to the policy unit. We can go to the next.
Yeah.
Okay, we can go to the next slide. All right.
Okay, I am happy to fill in this evening for my colleague, Anastasia McCarthy, who is the director of the policy unit, to provide an update to all of us. The CPOC policy unit continues working on all of their open policy and data projects. And the policy team released the following. One was an explainer on vehicle and accident investigations. Another was a post-event report on CPOC's Kensington meeting. And the policy unit published a new blog on the updates to the window tint ordinance, providing information on changes to the enforcement that will go into effect in late June 2024. So those explainers and that blog are available on our website. We can go to the next slide.
See if any of the commissioners have anything for the policy unit. The director's not here, but we'll see if there's any questions. If we need to get back to you, commissioners, we'll let you know. If any of the commissioners have any questions regarding the policy unit. All right. Now we're going to go to outreach and training. The outreach and training unit.
Okay. Thanks, Danny. So my name is Talia Grimmage. Very happy to be here this evening to talk a little bit about what the policy and training unit has been up to for the last 30 days. As you can see, the policy unit is made up of myself, Damon Green, Julian Jordan, Jeriana Hernandez, and Jody Eichel. Next slide, please. Yeah, so just to give some information about what we've been up to, we attended Mayor Parker's Budget and Resource Town Hall event. This was held at Penn Memorial Church. If you have been following Mayor Parker, she's been going around the city talking about the budget and just some of her ideas for her administration. And so we were present at the one that was held at the Penn Memorial Church. We also attended the 3rd annual CST and BHTEN community event in South Philly. Next slide. Okay. The outreach and policy team issued a report on our Kensington Town Hall. If you joined us at our Kensington Town Hall, you know that it was a wonderful event. We were able to engage with the community, get some feedback from everyone. We had some resources and vendors that were there. And so we have issued a full report about that event, just providing some information to the community about what we heard, information that was shared with us, people that were present. And so this slide here just gives you a little bit more information about the overview of the event, some of the audience metrics, the number of attendees that we had, the organizations that supported it. We had 3 members of City Council that were represented at that event. We had 3 presentations, one from the director of the Office of Criminal Justice, another from Prevention Point, and someone from Congreso was there as well. This is just sort of a little blurb explaining some of the experiences we heard from the community, some of the resources we presented, and some feedback we received about what people wanted for the future of Kensington. And so that full report is available online. We shared it on our social media, and I really have to shout out Jackie George and Jeriana Hernandez from Policy and Outreach that really spearheaded this event. It was an amazing opportunity to engage with the Kensington folks. And so if you have an opportunity, please read that full report. Next slide. Okay, so the training team, we gave a training to the Temple Hospital Trauma Victims Advocacy Program. This is something that we do on occasion. We will provide training on our complaint process to different agencies or groups that may have contact with their constituents who have contact with the police department. And so we really just give them an overview of our agency, and we talk a little bit about what happens if someone files a complaint. So if they have constituents or clients that want to file a complaint, they can sort of advise them on what they can expect when they reach out to us. We gave our oversight presentation to the Civilian Police Academy. That is a program that is sponsored by the Philadelphia Police Department, where they take community members and give them a 9-week immersion course in police policy and procedure. CPOC is a standard presenter at the Civilian Police Academy. And so we gave our oversight presentation to this recent class. And I should say that several of our staff members and our commissioners have gone through the Civilian Police Academy. Next slide. Okay, so last month, our community town hall was titled Mothers Committed to Change. And I have to tell you, if you missed this meeting, I wish you had been there, because it was a really, really great discussion about mothers who are change agents in our community. We talked to Mothers in Charge, we talked to Charito Morales from Philly Boricuas, and we had a representation from Tamar Manasseh, who founded an organization called MASK, which stands for Mothers or Men Against Senseless Killings in Chicago. It was a chance for us to get together to talk about how you become a change agent in the community. What is it like, the growth of grassroots organizations and gun violence prevention? The misconceptions sometimes people have with diverse populations in the media, encouraging and uplifting our youth and young people, the civilian oversight of law enforcement, and addressing grief and trauma with art therapy. If you go to our YouTube page, that video is available, and I encourage everyone to check it out. Next slide. Okay, we completed our first spring toiletry drive in support of survivors of human trafficking and domestic violence. This slide here just gives you sort of an idea of some of the things that we were collecting and the agencies that we're working with to receive those donations. And I have to say, please stay tuned for more details on a larger outreach and policy project that will gather some feedback from providers and survivors of human trafficking, domestic violence, arrest, and diversion. Next slide, please. Okay, we gave an oversight lecture to recruit class 402A and 402B at the Police Academy, similar to the Civilian Police Academy. CPOC is a standard presenter at the Police Academy with the recruits. So we are usually one of the last people they talk to before they graduate and get their assignments at their districts. So we went to the Police Academy, class 402A and B. It was 80 recruits. And so we spent some time talking to them about oversight, about our agency, the history of oversight in the city, because sometimes people think that, you know, oversight just sprouted out of the ground recently, but it's been in existence for many, many decades in this city. And we watch a film with them that centers around, it's called Navajo Class 57. It's on Max, if anyone's interested in checking it out. And it is the story of a recruit class in the Navajo Nation. And so it's good to have a discussion with our recruits about some things that are happening in a whole nother part of this nation that are very similar to some things that we see in Philadelphia. And of course, we also, can you go back one? Yes, yes. We tabled and supported the community at Pride 2024. That was just this Sunday. Pride is so much fun. We really enjoy being out there with the community, you know, having giveaways and swag, talking to people. This year at our table, we made sure that we had some literature regarding the Niza Morris incident. If you're familiar, you know, our investigative team is going to be conducting a review of that incident. And so we just wanted to have some info on hand if anyone remembers Niza and has any information or details that they would like to share with us. They know how they can get in touch with us. Next slide. Okay, and this is a list of the CAP hearings for this month. And our slide on our website, and the CAP dates should be on our social media as well. CAPs are open to the public. So if anyone is interested in seeing what that process looks like, you're able to go to police headquarters and sit in on those hearings. Next slide. Okay, so if you want to catch up with the outreach and training team, here is where we will be and some things that we'll be up to in the near future. So on the 6th, we will be giving our complaint intake training, the one I talked about with Temple Trauma. We're going to be giving that training to the CMAC staff so that they are familiar with our complaint process, so they can advise their constituents about what they can expect if they want to reach out to us. On the 15th, we will be at a community resource event at Tustin Rec. The 17th, listen, June 17th is a night to remember. Please, please, please remember that date. We are inviting everyone to come out and join us as we have a night for oversight. We're going to be spending some time with our new executive director. The event is going to be in the mayor's reception room at City Hall at 6 o'clock. Someone just dropped the Eventbrite link in the chat, so please register so that you can join us. We're going to talk more about Tanya's background, some of the accomplishments that this agency has had, over the past 2 years. Hear more from her about her vision for this agency. And there's going to be a nice reception at the end for us to have some food and just get to know each other and talk a little bit more. So please bring a friend, bring 2 friends. Join us June 17th in the mayor's reception room. On the 24th, the staff is going to be receiving a human trafficking and domestic violence training from War Center Against Sexual Violence. Obviously, they come in contact with a lot of survivors and victims, and so they're going to just give us a little bit of guidance as we are, encountering and engaging people in the community, and when they reach out to us on some things we should keep in mind when we're speaking to people who have experienced human trafficking or domestic violence. On the 26th, we will be attending the Philly Interagency Civil Rights Task Force. And then on the 28th, Mothers in Charge, friends of the agency, is having their 21st anniversary celebration. So we are encouraging people to come out to that event if they can. CPOC will be there. And so, of course, we want to mention Juneteenth is this month. That's a very, very important thing we need to mention and acknowledge. And so please follow us on social media to hear more about some of the events that we'll be at for Juneteenth, for Pride Month. And please, please, please join us on the 17th to meet and greet with our new executive director. And I think that's all I have. Danny, thank you.
So let me open it up to the commissioners for any questions or comments regarding outreach, the outreach and training unit.
I have a comment, and I kind of waited for the analyst where it's stated on our site, we explain, Ms. Grimmage explained that on our site, you can find our explanation of the new bills that just passed. Is there a way we could put it in a training or possibly?
I'm not sure I understand exactly what you're asking, Commissioner Bennett. You're saying, can we
the tent, the new legislation on the tent in the city of Philadelphia, right? Is there a way we can go out and explain it? Possibly.
okay, if we can explain the legislation surrounding what particular issue? I just want to make sure I'm understanding your question.
The bill on the sunscreen and tent, the new bill that Target.
Okay. Yes, that should be on our website.
That's saying it's on the website. Can we go out in the community and or do a town hall and explain
absolutely
these certain things? Because I think a lot of our community members will find it beneficial if they see it rather than read it.
Yes.
So I'm just throwing that idea out, pardon me, to you as the director of outreach, as well as the rest of the commissioners and the CPOC staff.
Yes, absolutely. We can definitely put something together. Sometimes not everybody's going to go to your website. They may not go to your social media, but if you can provide some space to discuss it, get some feedback so people can empower themselves and educate themselves and know what they can expect when they're driving around, we definitely can provide space for that. Thank you for that suggestion.
Bennett, may I? I think what you just said was outstanding. So now that you brought this to our attention, may I bring to your attention that we should educate our citizens by our bylaws. And I spoke earlier about this off record, but I wanted to bring to your attention that now that you brought this out about the legislation and the new bill, is it possible that we can now share with the community about our bylaws?
From my understanding, bylaws of the commission are not secret. So if there's some reason why they can't be posted, I'm going to ask Attorney Trigg, but I'm assuming that the bylaws can be posted.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's very important.
But I will have Commissioner Twigg address whether or not the commission's bylaws are public or not public.
Thank you. I think it's very important that they are aware. Thank you so
Well,
much.
let me hear from her about whether they are public or not. So, Council Twig, if you have any guidance on that issue of whether or not the commission's bylaws are public or not.
Yes, I believe those can be made public. And as I said, Commissioner Thomas, I'd be happy to talk to you tomorrow about this.
But I appreciate you letting the community know that they can be public, and I would greatly appreciate if that can be put on the website and on the Facebook, so people are aware and they can follow what our responsibilities and what we can do to help the citizens in the city of Philadelphia. Thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments from the commissioners regarding outreach and training? One of the things I would say, and as you can see, this department is extremely busy, is that we want to partner with as many communities as possible. And so reach out to our outreach department when you're having events in your community. As you can see, they are working day, night, weekends to try to reach as many communities as possible with the knowledge and expertise that this agency and commission has around policing. And so I know that our director and her team are always busy and open to hearing from various communities. So reach out to see if there are ways that we can partner with you. And so reach out. And I'm sure if there's a way to make it happen, Director Grimmett will make it happen. If not, we'll figure out a way to maybe make it happen in the future. But this is a team that is very committed to getting out. And one of the things I will say is that, you know, the reason why an office having an outreach and training team is so important is because there are many communities that are vulnerable to police. And for some people, that doesn't make any sense, maybe based on where you sit or where you live, but there are people that don't always want to pick up the phone and call 911, right? We have communities in Philadelphia where people are undocumented. And we have places where language barriers happen. So police show up that don't speak the language of a community. And sometimes in those instances, that's where misconduct happens, right? Because there's miscommunication. There's just places, the LGBTQ community is why I was so excited to be celebrating Pride. And so, and this is not to make a blanket statement about any police department, right? But this is just the reality of life that some communities are more vulnerable than others. And I am very happy to say that we have a team that is very sensitive to that. And so, you know, we will meet with you in whatever way makes sense. If that means a confidential meeting, then we will have one. I know that has been controversial because there have been places where we say police can't come, but if we need to do that, we need to do that. And so I want you to hear that from me as the executive director. This is nothing about alienating anybody, but our role is to the community. And so if we need to hear from them in a confidential manner, that's how we're going to hear from them. And so I just want to say that in case there are communities that feel vulnerable and feel like, you know, we have to have formats in very specific ways. We will have formats in ways that make sense so that we can hear your concerns and hear your ideas and be able to bring those to make change for the better in the Philadelphia community. All right. All right. So you heard about a lot of upcoming events. I think Director Grimmett laid it out for you. So once again, this is a team that is very busy and does not shy away from getting on out there in the community. And so this summer, you know, there's gonna be a lot of youth camps, summer camps. Contact her. Find out if there's any way we can come on and do a know your rights training to your young people. I don't know about you, but I have nephews, right? And so I'm always worried about what's going to happen. Like summertime is hot, you know, everything goes on. And so, you know, reach out. There's opportunities for us to come out and work in your various communities. And so we're looking forward to that. And our next section is going to be community comment. And so I'm going to kind of read something about the community comment and then turn it over for people from members of our community to be able to let the commissioners hear your comment. And so we welcome public comment and feedback. I think all the commissioners, all 6 of them, are committed to this work. They understand that. They want to hear from you. They want to hear your feedback. But we're going to ask that you address your comments to the chair. So even if you have, for example, so today that's me, because we just elected the interim chair, so that person will be taking over starting next month, but you're going to address your questions to me, not to a particular commissioner. And so if you would like to speak, we're going to ask that you provide your name and put it in on your box. And if for some reason somebody doesn't know how to do that, I can ask our Director of Administration, Danny Guy, to tell people how they can make your name in comments so that we know who you are. And so if you are a member of the media, we're going to ask you to identify yourself as such. So for example, it'd be Tanya McCleary, Philadelphia Inquirer. So we want to kind of just know if you are a member of the media and you're providing public comment. And we will also indicate that you would like to speak by raising your hand. So if you want to raise your hand, some people, I know the technology is not great, so we're going to try to get it figured out together, okay? But if you have the capability to raise your hand, that would be really great, because that would allow me to be able to see who's trying to make public comment. Or if that's not possible, you can just request it in the chat. Our chat is monitored, and so we will be able to acknowledge you that way. And you can also submit your public comment through the chat. We want to be very sensitive that sometimes people want to say things kind of anonymously because it might be a sensitive issue or whatever. So for some reason, you would prefer to just put it in the chat. We will review those after the meeting. And if there's something that we need to bring back to the next meeting in July to address, we will do that. You will have 3 minutes. It's going to be time to address the commissioners. I'm going to keep time and notify you when your 3 minutes are up. Any documents or communication that you might want to supplement your comment, you can send them to us. Really easy email address, CPOC, CPOC at phila.gov. So PHILA.gov. And we will make sure that we will be able to review your documents or any other conversation. I do want to remind people of this very important thing, because I never want members of the public to feel cut off, but public comment should be on topics covered in this meeting. And also they should be free from offensive language, threats, harassment. So I'm just gonna say, if people, start yelling, cursing, we have to have a certain decorum. I think that we can't work together if we don't have a certain decorum. And so I've notified my staff that if people cannot maintain a decorum, that they will have permission to end the comment before the 3 minutes are up. Also, we may even remove you from the meeting completely. Hopefully it won't come to any of that, because we are all hopefully adults and can know what we should do in public comment. I also want to remind you all that this is public comment. This is not questions, etc. You can ask your questions, but the commissioners may or may not respond to them at this time. I'm not sure if it's something simple that somebody can respond to really quickly, we will do that. But if they're very complicated issues, there should not be an expectation that the commissioners will respond in real time. This is public comment. So we're receiving comment and feedback from you. And sometimes we need to be able to listen to that, to sit with that, to bring back a very thoughtful or well-researched response. So with that, hopefully everybody understands our rules of engagement this evening. And with that, I'm going to see if we have
we had someone
that wants to give public comment. And yes. Director Guy, what were you getting ready to say?
Yeah, I was going to say we had someone who registered to speak. Caesar, I'm going to unmute you if you'd like to give your public comment.
Yes, hello. Can you all hear me?
We can.
Okay, so it is a question that's following a little bit of just context. I'm pretty new to CPOC and the work that's been done here, so this is all very new to me, and I'm just trying to get like a handle of like, what CPOC really is, what are the intentions of it. But I do know that CPOC was started at like a time of incredible community anguish and frustration because police aren't really held accountable for their targeted abuse of marginalized communities, and because of its predecessor, the PAC was widely seen as pretty ineffective. I also know that there have been issues with CPOC and the union, the police union, because, for example, the police union contract states that CPOC has to ask for permission to conduct investigations of officer misconduct, something that they've also vowed to defend in court if necessary. So I'm kind of, as a citizen, stuck in like a crossroads of trying to figure out what CPOC sees itself as and what CPOC is able to do. So I guess if I were to frame that as a question, it'd be more about the role of CPOC itself. Like, are there ambitions for CPOC to have the authority and jurisdiction to hold the police and its officers accountable on behalf of the community? Or is it more at home as like a review board, which is designed to express opinions and push recommendations to more relevant parties in the city? And then as a follow-up, is CPOC currently structured to fulfill its role adequately, whatever role that is, either like to hold the police accountable or to like act as a review board? And if not, what changes would need to happen for that to be a reality? Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else signed up for public comment?
Did we, I wasn't sure if we wanted to respond to that. I can go to the next person.
May I respond as briefly as possible?
Okay, so this is public comment. We normally receive comment. There's not an
Okay.
expectation that commissioners will respond.
All right.
So we're receiving a comment from the public.
All right, so the next person I have is James. I'm going to unmute you.
Hello. What was the name of the lady whose internet cut out? Because what was her unit? I did have a question. If you could respond to that real quick, because because she said that there's no way for you guys to know if the 90 days like you find out after the fact, but you guys have an auditor monitoring unit, so you guys should know when it happens. Because I actually had that happen. So that is an issue. And this is a question, I have more, but could you explain this new format? Because like now we're either making comments, just making direct statements or questions, and we have no expectation of getting an answer in the meeting. This is why the public attends, the meeting. These are my direct questions that I have for this. Just give me 1 second. So the first question, besides the other, this was my first question that I originally had was, are you aware, executive, that your email is blocking citizens from emailing you? If so, what's going to be done about it? My second question is, if the investigative unit could provide examples of how they investigate police shootings. Example, the 28-year-old Alexander Spencer that was shot and killed January 26th at 8:45 p.m. And if you guys can provide the image of the alleged suspect that the police was looking for. My third question is, has all CPOC employees returned to work and no longer working hybrid schedules? My fourth question is, what do you guys do if the PPD doesn't meet the 90-day deadline? Are the police, my fifth question is, are the police looking into investigating the motor vehicle crash in which police were pursuing the 17-year-old that killed a motorist? It looks like that was a chase without the sirens on. My sixth question is, does the investigative unit has authority to investigate CPOC commissioners and employees? We already know they can't investigate police complaints from citizens, which is the issue. Who decided to bring legislation on removing commissioners instead of legislation on investigating police IA complaints? My ninth question is, why doesn't the Kensington meeting have sound on it? My 10th question is, if the commissioners can provide an answer of what have they done to help the citizens, a brief answer to that. And my last question is, how long will it take for this video to be posted on YouTube? And why have my questions from the last meeting not been answered via email or in this meeting? Hopefully you guys can answer them today, right now, because I resent the email. So just let me know.
Can we make sure that we have that commenters' contact information, we'll try to respond to those by the next
Yes,
meeting.
we do. And I believe that was the only people who've registered with their names, who've raised their hand. And I think we're at time if we want to call this meeting to adjourn. Oh, looks like there's a call-in. Give me 1 second.
Hello, thank you. My name is Colin. I'm a library worker with the Free Library Philadelphia, and so I was really happy to hear that the policy and outreach team, is doing the work of getting out there. I work in South Philly at Whitman Library, and I know exactly how important CMAC is to immigrant communities, and for a lot of people who speak English as a second language. It's great to hear that you're directly working on training CMAC staff on that. I guess I wanted to just give an open invitation to potentially plan a similar event at the Free Library. I mean, there's many locations. I would hope we could plan something in South Philly. And I'm inviting, I guess, the CPOC commissioners or staff to follow up with me if you're interested. I'm not too high on the food chain, so I can't really, just approve something like this. But I would definitely advocate with my managers and such to get something like this happening. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, Colin.
Colin's contact information.
Yeah, Colin, if you can put your email in the chat, that would be super helpful. And I have one more person, Brandon, who registered to speak. I'm gonna unmute you.
Hello, can you all hear me?
We can.
Yes.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, first I'd just like to second some of the frustrations that some of the comments that citizens make here are going unaddressed, or that this is not a space for more of a Q&A, rather it's just comment. This is a public hearing, and I think a lot of people attend these in hopes that they will have some more direct communication on the issues and the purview of CPOC. And secondly, a comment I have is the investigation teams spoke today, and at the end kind of spoke that they are doing work, but I believe a lot of people are frustrated with the few investigations that have been conducted thus far. So I would want to know what work has been done to improve the capacity for the investigation team, what work still needs to be done in order for this Oversight Commission to have more broad investigative powers and conduct them on a regular basis. And speaking specifically to investigations, and speaking on the encampment clearing that happened in Kensington at the beginning of May, CPOC put a statement out that they would be reviewing this situation, and I would like to know what the status of that is, and what the recommendation is that CPOC is going to make, because speaking as someone from Philadelphia, I think that the conduct of the police on that day was very troubling, and I would like to see some more information about it, and hopefully something done about it as well. Thank you.
Great. Those are all the comments I think we have for people who have identified themselves, Tanya, in the chat. I don't know if you want to move to end of the meeting.
So let me say that we're trying a new format, and so I will work with our interim chair and the other commissioners to see if they want to tweak it at all. We just want to be able to make sure that the business can be covered in a meeting, and that we also want to make sure that we are giving answers that are very responsive. So sometimes we may be able to, and the commissioners may be able to answer quickly in a moment, and the reality of it is even if it doesn't make you happy, sometimes we're going to have to get back to you because they need to look up information. So I will work with the commissioners to figure out how they'd like to do public comment going forward. But we are so grateful to all of you that tuned in and joined us. And so we look forward to the next meeting. I know the commissioners take the comments that you say, the questions that you say very seriously. They take it to heart. They talk a lot about how they should respond and what they, the responses that they want to give to the community, so that you all know that they are working on your behalf. And so, like I said, we will work with this and see if we can figure out some things going forward. But I hope that you will join us again. You see all the amazing activities that are coming up. I'm so excited to hear Colin and a couple other people saying, hey, come on to our community and do some work with us. And so our commissioners, I love to get out there as well as the CPOC staff. And so I'm looking forward to seeing some of the commissioners as well as some other team members out in your community at something in a near future. And so with that, if any commissioner has anything, I'm going to see if anybody wants to make a motion to adjourn.
I motion to adjourn.
I second that motion.
And if we could just, that was Commissioner Thomas and the second came from?
Hassan Bennett, Chair Hassan Bennett.
Okay. So there has been a motion that has been made to adjourn and properly seconded. All of the commissioners in favor of adjourning the meeting at this time, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? All right. Well, we look forward to seeing you all at our next upcoming commission event. And until then, everyone take care and just know that CPOC is here for you and members of your community. Thank you.
Have a great night, everyone.